Good, everybody. All right, dearest ones. So, Ifisha, Bobby. All right. So we think here we're going to be for just this 1 little hour. It'll go like the flash of lightning. And we're going to discuss a few things about the mind, about our potential, really. So we think just for 1 hour, we'll listen, we'll think about it. And even if there's 1%, even if it's 1% of what you hear is useful and you can put it into practice, that's perfect. Perfect. It's got to be advice. You know, the Tibetans have this lovely way, and they say there's a very particular way to think. They have this very sweet analogy. They say, don't be like the 3 pots. The first pot, if it's got holes in it, then what it goes in just goes out. So it goes in one ear and out the other. That's pretty useless. So don't be like the second pot. I forget the order. The second pot will be upside down. Nothing goes in because you're not listening. And the third pot would be full of dirty stuff. So whatever goes in, it becomes polluted and you can't hear it. So try and be not like those 3 pots. And even if, like I said, even 1% of what I say is useful, it's tools, that's fantastic. So, you know, there's what I find really encouraging about the Buddhist approach is that the attitude about what the mind is and its extraordinary potential. So we say, like, we talk like that in our own culture. We talk about using only a small percentage of our brain, you know. So, but I mean, we don't really, we think of that in terms of, I don't know what, being creative or intelligent, but we don't often think about it emotionally, do we? About how to lessen the neurotic emotions and grow the happy emotions. We don't think in those terms. But that's really what the Buddha is saying. That's what our potential is. It's in terms of the ability to be happy and to stop suffering, the ability to lessen the neuroses, the fears, the dramas, the attachment, the anger, the jealousy, despair, depression, and to grow the love, the compassion, the kindness, the intelligence, etc., etc. On the face of it, it sounds pretty simple. I mean, the concept is quite simple. It's not complicated. But the doing of this job, that's what's tricky, you know. That's what's hard. So finally, you know, the Buddhist approach is this consciousness of ours, this mind, this capacity for cognition. It's got extraordinary potential. I mean, it almost sounds like science fiction when you read about the qualities we can accomplish, the potential of this mind of ours. It's but even just the idea that we've got the potential to be in charge of the process of becoming happy and suffer less. In one way, you could argue that the whole of Buddhist path is spoken about in those terms. And that sounds kind of, wow, you know, really? We can do that? We can be in charge of it? So, of course, if we think we're in charge of it, we always think of it externally, mostly externally, to get the right conditions, the right husband, the right house, the right family, the right job, you know. So there's no question they play a role. There's absolutely no question they play a role. There's no harm in, and there's nothing wrong with pursuing those. But the Buddhist point is really simple. You know, maybe you can get everything you want, but we know we can't. We know we can't get everything we want. We know we can't get the ideal. We can always aim for it. So what to do in those situations? What to do when it really is immutable? You know, what to do when you really can't get those situations? What to do? Then what we tend to think is we've got no choice but to be miserable. We've got no choice. We're stuck, you know. And that's why I find my friends in prison such powerful examples. I mean, you can't get something more immutable than a life sentence, you know. You might spend years and years and years, which many of my friends do, especially if they're wrongly accused. I mean, it's like a nightmare trying to get free, but there's no guarantee that you will. So what do you do? Spend your years being miserable until you can make the condition right? That tends to be how we live our lives, isn't it? Nothing wrong with pursuing a beautiful house, a nice environment, the best partner. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's not a moralistic issue. The Buddhist point is really very practical. He says we can change our mind. And what that means is we can change our mind. Sounds, change your mind. All right. Yes. Okay. I'll go to the movie after all. I've changed my mind. We think it a bit like that. You know, okay, have a cup of tea instead of coffee. I've changed my mind. Yes, we can do that. But it's a little bit more than that. When we understand the Buddhist approach, hang on a second. I'm going to blow my. When we understand the Buddhist approach, that actually what goes on in our mind is really a bunch of opinions, you know. It's very interesting. I mean, it's a very particular way they talk about the mind. You know, we've got sensory consciousness and we have mental consciousness. Mental consciousness, as Lama Zopa puts it, that's where the workshop is, you know, that's where the workshop is. Now, sensory consciousness, which means the capacity, and I'll spell it out carefully because they're very precise about it in the Buddhist psychological model, that the eye consciousness, for example, that's got the capacity to see. With this one, we can hear. With this one, we can touch. Here, we can taste. We can smell. So, we give, as Lama Zopa says, Lama Yeshe says, we give so much power to the body. Meaning that, like if I look at, I always use the same example, if I look at this thermos, I said someone else's today, usually mine is black, and this has got red in it. So, look at that thermos, and I will say, oh, that's a really nicely well-designed thermos. But technically, the Buddhist view is that's ridiculous. The eye consciousness doesn't have the capacity. This is a really huge point, actually. Forget about the thermos. What about Fred? You're in love with Fred. So, of course, when you look at Fred, what you describe is a really divine, handsome person. And, of course, it's your eyes. You think it's your eyes seeing a divine, handsome person. Well, this is what's interesting, and we can prove it. Our mothers told us that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's so profound. It's completely agreeing with the Buddha. Of course, the eye of the beholder, meaning your mind. So one person can look at Fred, his ex-wife can look at Fred and sees an ugly person. And I, my brand new boyfriend, Fred, whom I'm in love with, I will see a divine person. This actually should blow our minds, but we so take this for granted, we don't join the dots. How is it possible that one person, the same person, two people with the same eyes, the same lighting, can look at the same person and one sees somebody disgusting and one sees somebody divine? Now, first of all, this is the point I'm getting to. It's not your eyes that see handsome and divine. It's not your eyes. That just sees shape and color. The way they describe in the Buddhist model, the sensory consciousnesses, each of the five senses, is profoundly limited in its capacity for cognition. Eye consciousness can only cognize shape and color. That's it. So then you've got to ask the question, what part of my mind is cognizing divine Fred or ugly Fred? Well, that's your mental consciousness. And I'm not kidding when I say, because the Buddhist view is that everything we ever see and hear and taste and touch and smell stays programmed in our mind, like stored as memories. Nothing goes astray. So what happens is, this is how it works. What happens is my eyes see that shape and color. Instantly I recognize, instantly this comes flooding out of my mouth and in my mind, this story. Wow, Fred is amazing, the most handsome guy, the most kind, the best person in the world, the cause of all my happiness. And I'll have a long description of this person, the shape and color of whose body, basically, I am seeing. So what is it? And then the ex-wife just sees her disgusting, he's evil, he's this, he cheats on you, he's mean. She sees her. So what is that? That's in your mental consciousness. So quicker than Google, honestly, not kidding, the way the mind works in the Buddhist view is really fascinating. We're talking not about the brain here, we're talking about the actual subjective cognitive process itself. So quicker than Google, when my eyes see that shape and color and his ex-wife sees that shape and color, instantly what happens is the mental consciousness is triggered. The mental consciousness is accessed. And what comes out of my mouth is a series of words. What are words? Thoughts. What are thoughts? They're interpretations. They're opinions. He is divine. The other opinion is he is revolting. They're opinions. They're basically opinions. And the Buddha's view of the mind is we've got a bunch of opinions that are not valid because they're exaggerations, distortions. So because I'm in love with Fred, my attachment runs the show, and attachment over-exaggerates his deliciousness. And so the ex-wife, her anger is running the show, so that over-exaggerates his ugliness. Now, we know we do this. Our mummies told us we make mountains out of molehills. We exaggerate. But we just take this for granted. We don't question this process. That's exactly what the Buddhist view is doing. In the Buddhist analysis, anger, attachment, jealousy, anxiety, depression, all these unhappy emotions, they've got this particular function of being conceptual stories. We don't notice that because we just think they're feelings and the body is involved. But beneath that, they're driven by these conceptual opinions, by opinions, interpretations. So then we understand it like that, then we can change our interpretations. So this woman I always mention, who was in prison on death row, accused of murdering 2 policemen along with her husband, completely innocent, took her 17 years to get out, completely, like a nightmare, an absolute nightmare, living in hell, this nightmare on insecurity for years, but totally innocent. So she said, at some point I realized I couldn't change anything. but they couldn't take my mind from me. So she said she realized she had a choice to how to think about it. So she learned to give up the angry interpretation, the frustrated interpretation, which is so normal and natural. Can you imagine being accused of murder on death row and you're innocent? You go absolutely out of your brain, you know. So that's what the Buddha's saying, essentially that. And so you got to think, then why would I do that? Why should I change my mind? I mean, the typical view we have is, you know, if Fred is mean to me and I'm sitting there being like all innocent and doing nothing wrong, and this has happened to us all the time, and then I get angry, how dare he do that to me? I don't deserve it. On the face of it, it's true. You didn't do anything. Then someone says, well, you know, you can learn to change. You learn not to get angry. I'll be shocked. Why should I? What do you mean I can not be angry? I'm allowed to be angry. Look what he did. That's how we think. That's how we think. So to hear that we can not be angry, that sounds easy enough concept. So at the same time I read about this woman, Sunny. I know her now. She's out of prison. She lives in Ireland, helping former prisoners. At the same time, when I first read about Sunny, I also read about another fellow on death row who was also completely innocent, completely. So the way he responded, he would be what we consider normal. He went completely out of his brain with despair and rage. He lost his mind, which we understand. And as long as he had a voice, he would scream, I did not rape and kill that woman. I did not rape and kill that woman. So what's the difference between them? Somehow like a miracle. She's not a Buddhist or anything. She did yoga and things. She said she had this ability, this extraordinary, I would call it emotional intelligence. She could see she couldn't change the outside. The interesting thing is she never gave up. She eventually got her freedom. But they couldn't take my mind from me. And I've read many people who do this. And one woman I read recently who was in Auschwitz, exactly the same thing she said, exactly the same. So what is the consequence of this is, guess what? The woman in Auschwitz and this woman on death row, they became happy, fulfilled, content. This sounds demented in normal terms, like out of your brain. How could you possibly say you can become happy and wise? Well, that's the point. And that the simple point the Buddha's making, so simple we can't hear it, is all he's saying is, guess what, folks? What goes on in your mind, the thoughts you have, quite literally, which informs the feelings you have, that is the basis of whether you're happy or suffering. That's it. The external world, of course, it plays a role, massive, but our responses to the external, that's the point he's discussing. That's his expertise. So it's a practical issue, not a moralistic one. Not like, oh, you shouldn't be angry, you've got to change your mind. No, it's practical. All he's saying is you'll see that if you change your interpretation, there's a saying in Buddhism, if you can change it, please change it. Get out of prison if you can. But what if you can't? Then you change your mind. And why? Because it'll make you happy. Because we want happiness and don't want suffering. That's it. But I mean, that's it. That's it. But it's too shocking for us. It's like it can't be possible. It sounds heavy. It sounds unfair. It sounds like kind of wrong. Because we have so many assumptions in our mind about what happiness and suffering is and how to get it, you know. That's the essence of the whole Buddhist path. Honestly, day-to-day practice. That's it. So on that, ask me some questions now on that point. If you agree, disagree, whatever you want, ask questions. And what practice is learning to do this, learning to slowly do this, you know, that's what it is. Are there any questions? About anything, whatever you want. Brian, talk to me.
Hi, Venerable Robina.
Hello.
Hi, you had recommended this book.
Yes.
And you had also mentioned that it was maybe for more advanced study. So should I hold off reading it until...
No, not at all, not at all, not at all, Brian. Lama Yeshe had this marvelous, has this wonderful ability to use even the esoteric, which are necessarily more advanced practices, and more complicated topics to bring them down to earth. And there's some wonderful, absolutely, you'll be delighted to read it if you've read it. Of course, to actually accomplish what he's talking about, that's a different discussion. But this doesn't mean we can't practice. It's a wonderful technique. But just to read it is inspiring because he talks about our marvelous potential. Absolutely, go for it. You've got it anyway. So do not waste it. Read it, taste it. It gives you courage. It gives you optimism. Lama Yeshe gives us optimism. It's wonderful. Yeah, good. Okay. Who else then? Alexis, is anybody in the chat?
Patrick, do you have a question?
I do.
Good, Patrick.
Hi, Venerable Robina. My question is such. In the last couple of weeks, I mean, I don't mind sharing this. I see a therapist, and when we work on anxiety, we often talking about clearing out that what I'm experiencing in the morning, this anxiety, my therapist calls them just thoughts. But I've been reading a lot on Buddhism, and they say one person, I can't remember who it was, said they're not just thoughts. Every thought has value. So it just kind of leaves me kind of wondering, do all my thoughts, do I need to kind of slough them aside and not let them affect me? You see what I'm saying?
I do see exactly. No, for sure, every thought does count. I mean, I say that often, and that is the Buddhist view, that essentially this is the meaning of karma in the most simple sense, the law of karma, this natural law of cause and effect, that every millisecond of what we think and then do and say is the process that programs us, that turns us into the person we become. So first of all, that's the main point. So you can, my friend Sunny, living in this garbage dump of a prison, accuses of killing 2 policemen, this nightmarish environment, nothing nice about it. Because her internal world, she began to become in charge of it, she was able to change her mind and therefore find a way to be at peace with things, So the Buddhist point is the mind is the main thing. So every thought does count. But the interesting and fascinating point about when you study the Buddhist model is you can divide all the thoughts and feelings into 3 categories. Those that are neurotic, like anxiety, anger, fears, jealousy, attachment, and then those that are valid, like love, relaxed, easygoing, compassion, confident, optimistic, the positive qualities. And it almost seems simplistic for us because we make it more complicated in modern psychology. But it really is like that. But the point is that the biggest trouble, the 3rd category, are like, I call them the mechanics. It's sort of like concentration, good memory, the parts of our mind that whether you're a murderer or a meditator, you need to be successful. Do you understand? Those ones, the key ones we want to get in touch with are the so-called unhappy and the positive ones, and to learn to distinguish between them. So the key point is, and this is what takes time, our problem is in our culture, because we're so addicted to our body and our physical experiences and our physical feelings and our senses, we only notice what's going on deep down inside and when it comes roaring to the surface. So anxiety is a milder version of so basically the 2 main ones Buddhism talks about that seem so simple, but again, it's quite profound. The main one that runs our show is this constant kind of attachment, they call it, which is this assumption that somehow everything should be nice, everything should go well. Every day, you think about it, you get up in the morning, you assume your coffee will be there, you want everything to be nice, you want the weather to be nice, you want everything to go well, you want the green light, you want the husband to be lovely. It's all the time this assumption that everything must be nice. We want that because we assume that's happiness. But then the point is, when we don't get it, if you break the cup when you're washing the dishes, if the coffee's run out in the fridge, and slowly it builds up into sort of this agitation. But if we could catch it the moment that second arose, it becomes from a moment of wanting something and then not getting it. And these 2 come together, that's called anxiety, frustration, annoyance, irritation. Now, if you're a really angry guy, you'd be shouting and swearing. So they're all variations of this aversion when attachment doesn't get what it wants. But the point is we don't notice it until the body's shaking, and then we rush off to the therapist. We should be getting it way sooner. And that's why we need to develop the skill to learn just to be quiet, to back away from our thoughts for 5 minutes in a simple little meditation. So you develop the skill to notice all these thousands of thoughts. They're never stopping, and we don't pay attention to them, Patrick. We don't unpack them and unravel them. That's the skill we have to learn to develop, till eventually you grab the thought when it arises before it becomes anxiety, before it becomes anger. Do you understand the point? So they are all thoughts, but we have to learn to distinguish between the ridiculous, panic-stricken ones and the reasonable ones. So sometimes being your own therapist means when you catch it and you get annoyed when the coffee's not there, oh, shut up, Patrick, give it a break, honey. You can handle it. It's okay. allay, and then you allay the anxiety. But if you buy into it's not fair, the coffee should be there, then another thing goes wrong before you know, the straw that breaks the camel's back. So it's a series of constant moments of thoughts, good, valid thoughts, in being spacious and intelligent and kind, and sort of like I think of them all as my roommates, and I try to use my good roommates to argue with my crazy roommates. But you've got to grab them before they become emotional. That's the point. So in a sense, Buddha's a cognitive therapist. You've got to grab the thoughts, and then you can reconfigure them. You can argue with yourself. Give it a break, mate. It's okay not to have that coffee. And then suddenly the anxieties are laid. You get my point?
Yes, yes, very much. Thank you.
That's my second job, It's hard work.
Okay.
Like any job, when you get used to it, it becomes easy. This is the job, day-to-day job, But our tragedy is we leave it till it's too late.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yes, yes. Thank you, Venerable.
Good, Patrick. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay.
What else?
Venerable?
Yeah.
It's Sheil.
Oh, good. Talk to me.
So what I'm understanding is when a disturbing emotion comes up, the idea is we are aware of it and then we transform it. We can transform it in the form of like saying a mantra and kind of imagining it kind of, going. And
Who told you that? Who gave you that method?
I think in one of the sessions that we do that happens in the evening, express meditation.
What, darling?
Express meditation.
Okay, somebody said that. Yeah, there's many ways you can do it, but the method I was just talking to Patrick about is a very down-to-earth one. You grab the thought and you change it. You argue with it and you put up another thought. But you can do that as well if you like. Fair enough. Then go on. What about it?
And you say a positive thought. And then the idea is, when things come up, transform them and then grow your virtue so that you can have happy feelings. Am I thinking?
No, it's sort of, but you're making it a bit romantic sounding. It sounds a bit sort of loosey-goosey. I'll tell you. It's like there's all sorts of methods you can use. But the key one is what I said to Patrick. Did you hear what I said to Patrick? Did you understand what I was answering to Patrick?
Be aware of it.
But that's the real job, moment by moment, Sheil. In other words, you see, at the moment, because we don't pay attention to our thoughts, from the second you think about it, from the second we wake up in the morning until the second we go to sleep, what are we mainly preoccupied with? The outside world. Otherwise, we'd fall over and we'd break our neck. We have to pay attention to the outside world, but we don't pay attention to what's happening in here. And we know there's never stopping series of thoughts. We know that is there chatting the whole time. And this is my point to Patrick. We don't pay attention to them. We're not noticing what they are until they start becoming emotional, until our body starts to shake. You don't notice your angry thoughts until they vomit out the mouth. You don't notice you're depressed until you can't get out of bed one morning. That's just too late. Then we wonder. Then we say, "What can I do when I want to kill my boyfriend?" You've got to start noticing those thoughts before it gets to the level of such strong anger. So that means learning to pay attention to the thoughts when they're less powerful. So you can. But at the moment, it's just it's like a noise inside us. We can't tell one thought from another. So this is quite a sophisticated job. But that's the job every day, to catch them and then change them. Argue with it. Or just, sometimes just tell it to shut up, or argue with it and try and use logic to sort of deconstruct it. This is the job every single day. And so the consequence of that is you're learning to lessen the neurotic thoughts and you're growing the positive ones. And then you'll be more happy, no question. You'll be more in charge of your mind. This is the most down-to-earth job. You understand?
Thank you, Venerable.
Good, Sheil. Thank you, darling. Who else is there?
Ace has a question, and so does Maddie.
Good. Okay, Ace, and then Maddie.
Hello, dear Robina. Can you hear me?
Happy to hear you, Ace. Yes.
Yeah. So we talked already once a week ago.
I remember, and I've got your email. I'm going to answer soon. I promise.
Yeah. Honestly,
I'm happy to hear from you, Ace. Talk to me.
I feel so happy to talk to you again.
Good.
Yeah. So, as I explained to you in our previous session,
yes,
I was raised in a really toxic family. So I was criticized by my father.
Sure.
Beaten without any reason.
Yes.
So Actually, I have a really low self-esteem, inferiority.
Yes, I understand.
I know that I have a good qualities,
Yes, definitely.
but the
So
problem
then,
is
so
the low self. Yeah.
So what's the point? I hear exactly, Ace. So what is the question for you that comes from this? Well, let me ask you a question. This is, you're an example of a person, like it's very common for all of us, variations of it, where we have a bad family, difficult things happen, and so then we get a low self-esteem from this. So the essential question is, do you feel that just because other people don't, have a good opinion about you, do you feel that you can learn to have a good opinion about yourself? Can you learn to see your good qualities? Can you learn to get confidence? Because that's the point that we're making here, that we have that potential. So do you feel you have that potential, Ace?
I'm trying to see my qualities by
Good.
doing meditation.
There you go. But every day-to-day life as well. It takes time, Ace. This is the process we all have to go through. Because you see, since we're tiny kids, this is one of the deepest attachments that Buddha talks about. It's very subtle. Since we're tiny, we've had this emotional hunger. All of us have it. Emotional hunger to be approved of. So suddenly there you are, this little boy with your own sense of who you are, and your daddy treats you a certain way. And it's a big shock. It's quite a shock to us, isn't it? And suddenly you start, and then you get this, opinions about you and these interpretations of you. And so then we start to believe them. This is our tragedy, Ace. And this is very natural. So this is what the process of developing our own qualities is. We have to learn to look freshly at ourselves, and regardless of what other people think, look intelligently and observe our own qualities, own our rubbish ones and develop our good ones. This is the job we have to do, Ace. And it seems you have got good qualities. It's very obvious, but you are the one who has to see them. 100 people can tell you you've got good qualities, but you have to see them and grow that view of yourself. That's how we all learn to become happy and wise and stable. Do you understand it?
Yeah. Thank you very much. For example, when I go at work, I have a fear to make mistakes. I have a
because you're
fear
worried about
to.
because you worry about what people think about you. That's how
that's
problem,
right.
It's more than it's the deepest one inside us. So at least you're conscious of it, and you just have to practice. You have to be very brave. It's good to make people happy. It's good to pray. I mean, it's good to do what your boss wants. But in the end, if we have so much fear, we can't even act. This is the nightmare. So this is, just keep moving, Ace. Keep growing, keep moving, keep having courage to be your own person, to have your own views, and and not only try to please other people. This is what we all have to learn to do.
Since I was a child, I think I always went away, unable to face obstacles.
Oh, exactly. I understand that. Yes.
Yeah.
So you're
and I
getting
still
braver.
have this feeling.
Are you getting braver now? Are you getting more brave?
Yeah, little by little.
Good. That's hopeful, isn't it? At least you can see you can do it. And the fact that you understand you can do it. This is the point, Ace. So you just keep moving. Do not give up. Be courageous, and make decisions. You've got to be brave. And one of the things, we discussed this last time, but whatever it is in our life, because we're so scared of what other people think, because we're so scared of upsetting them, we think, oh, I don't want to upset people, but mainly we're scared of them not liking us. So we become suffocated. We don't even know what we want ourselves. And like I said to you last time, we have to know what we want, Ace, and then have the courage to check on it. Is it ethical? Is it valid? And if it is, we find the way to do it. That's when we become content in our lives, and we follow our own heart. You understand, Ace?
Yeah, thank you very much, Robina, for your answer.
Thank you very much. You've got this, and you've got good qualities. It's really obvious just talking to you. So you've got to go one step at a time and be confident, a little bit every day, I promise, Ace. And then you get courage, and then you get better and better. It's not easy, but this is the job to be done.
Yeah, we don't have a choice.
No, darling, we do not have a choice, Ace. You're absolutely right. Exactly right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ace, because we're all the same. So thank you for your describing your experiences, because we're all familiar with it in different ways. Thank you.
Many thanks.
Good. What else, Alexis? Somebody else has a question.
Oh, Maddie has a question.
Yes, Maddie, talk to me.
Hello, Venerable Robina. Hi,
Hello.
nice to see you again.
Yes, absolutely.
I've I usually have a problem with depression. And so I
You have
guess
a problem with what? You have a problem with what?
depression.
Oh, okay,
Depression.
good.
I have an
Fortunate.
excellent memory, but I'm very ignorant and forgetful.
Okay, good.
So my question is, I have these thoughts that pop up that I know are lies that I don't want around. At what point, how diligent do I have to be? Can I just step on them? Can I just step on them until they go away?
No, you see, sometimes, like, like the example to Patrick of the coffee, you're expecting your coffee and you look in the fridge and it's the wrong coffee. So your expectations aren't met. So it's like you get the shock, the annoyance, the frustration. When it's small like that, we don't normally pay attention to them. You grab it then and, oh, come on, Maddie, give it a break. Just shut up. And you nip it in the bud then. But if you have that moment and then another moment, and then by the end of the day, there's a straw that breaks the camel's back, and then you sort of sink into misery because you didn't catch them. So one approach is just catch them and nip them in the bud. Another time you just hear them all chatting away. Oh, shut up, give it a break, mate, leave it alone. Another time you got to listen carefully and do some analysis. It's a different, you learn to be skillful with your own thoughts. It's really, I sound so corny, but it's really learning to know ourselves very intimately and hear the thoughts and find different methods to deal with them. Sometimes shut up, sometimes just let it be there. And other times, Maddie, it's like you've got 100 crazy roommates all shouting and yelling. Our heads like that. Sometimes you just let them be and ignore them. Don't buy into them. Don't buy into their stories. Just shut up and give it a break and let them be, because they're not going to stop because they're very old habits. So allow them to be like these crazy roommates, but you don't buy into their stories. That's profound. And you keep moving in a positive way, in charge of your own life, in charge of what's going on, Do you understand?
Excellent. Yes, I do.
I mean, it's a long process because this stuff's very deeply ingrained in us, right? So
It is.
deeply ingrained. When we start to become conscious, and the other interesting thing is, when we start to become conscious, it's like we've never looked before. So often in the text, they even say this, when you start to really work on your mind, you think you're getting worse. But even with going to therapy, because you're dredging up all the junk, you think you're getting worse, but you're not getting worse. You're just seeing it. We're seeing it, and that's really important. If you can't recognize the problem, how can we find the solution? So we've got to be brave. It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym to get fit, but after the first day, you come home with muscles you didn't know you had. You're not getting worse. It's a good sign. Well, all the stuff stirring up is a good sign as well. You understand?
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you, Venerable Robina.
My light isn't working. This is all floppy. Okay, go on, you people. Talk to me.
Hi, Venerable. This is Aarti.
Yes.
So a friend of mine recently made some nasty comments about my appearance, my face and my body. And it's like now the voice is stuck in my head.
Oh, darling, I know.
Similar to
What an unkind friend. How mean she was. That's very rude.
I know it was a boyfriend. It had ended.
Oh,
but
boyfriend. I mean, he's still your boyfriend.
He's not anymore.
Thank goodness.
I know, but I mean, of course, that hurt much more coming from a boyfriend about my appearance.
That's right. How rude of him. How so rude. I mean, that's so rude. A boyfriend. God.
I know.
I'm glad you got rid of him. Go on.
Problem is that some of it is true, like those are my physical characteristics.
Archie, what do you mean it's true? He told you you're too fat or something, did he?
Yeah, and I have some, some stretch marks and things like that, and he commented.
Oh my God, this boy! I beg your pardon. Tell him to go jump in the lake. Like men, I mean, unbelievable. So you got stretch marks. Excuse me, Archie. So okay, this is very interesting. If somebody says something about us and you check up and you say it's true, then that's fine. That's reality. But the question to you is, how are you dealing with this criticism? I mean, what is it? What are you doing with these things? I mean, what's the part that's true? And I mean, I'm trying to be too personal about you, but just discussing,
Right.
So what are you doing about it?
The problem is that I'm having a tough time moving on from it. It just keeps echoing in my head. I'm not able to go out and date again, or
So is it really the fact that the body isn't the right shape? You're thinking. Okay, let's do an analysis of it. Are the things? I mean, it's sort of like okay, the things that he said. He was being mean, that's true. But are they true or are they not true? You've got to be very logical. Are the things that he accused you of true or not true? This is important.
They are true. They
So
are true.
everything you said about, so like, I mean, not to mean to be too personal about your body. What did he say? What did he say, darling?
I mean, he said that I could lose some weight, and he
Okay,
compared
now stop
me
right there. Stop right there, Archie. Stop right there. Okay, so do you agree you would like to lose weight? Would you agree with that or not? And this is very, let's just take one point at a time. Do you agree with that? Or do you
I
think
do.
Okay, now, okay, good. This is a very good point. So now, you feel you'd like to lose weight. Would you like to lose weight? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, this is the point. So he said it to you, and then whatever his motivation was, screw him. It doesn't matter. Now you have to decide. This is where you have to own responsibility, Artie, and you can do it. So if you decide, okay, then he's pointed it out to me. He's probably right. I would like to lose weight. If you don't want to lose weight, then you don't worry about it because he's just a nonsense. It's his problem. But if you think it's true, then you have to take responsibility for it. So why don't you start to lose weight? This is one way of approaching it. This is one way of approaching it. Instead of taking it, sweetheart, hang on a second. Instead of taking it as a weapon to hurt yourself, which is what you're doing now. That's exaggeration. That's inappropriate, and that's guilt, and that is totally wrong. So you become proactive, sweetheart, on just that one point. Do you think it's possible you could make a decision to lose weight? Would you feel better if you did lose weight?
So absolutely. The problem, though, is that I've already lost a lot of weight, and I'm not to, be sharing overly on such forum, but I'm developing some.
I don't want you to be too personal. We're not trying to be mean, darling. It's just
Yeah.
the way of dealing with criticism. It's either true what the person said or it's not true. So forget his meanness, forget his motivation, but how you handle it is what I'm trying to get at. So if you are content with how you are, if you are content, and this is my point to Ace, some people, his father would abuse him, then he's got to check up, am I like that or not? So this boyfriend said that to you. So, you said you agree, but maybe you're just believing what he said. But if you look sincerely, if already you've lost weight and you feel good about yourself, can you learn to be content with who you are and not worry about what the boyfriend said? Why can't you? Can you try to do that, do you think? And be content with who you are and try to see yourself as beautiful, rather than believing what he said. That's the other approach.
Right. The issue, though, is that like all the stretch marks and I'm developing some loose skin, and that's all that he commented on, that I look older than him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So rude.
And
So rude. How dare he talk this way? So then, sweetheart, okay, so what I'm trying to get at is that if we can have the courage to take responsibility for when these things happen, rather than using it as a weapon to beat yourself up. You're using it as a weapon to drag yourself down and beat yourself up, darling, and that's not appropriate. That's guilt, and it's wrong. It's totally wrong to yourself. You're doing a good job. You've tried, you want to be more healthy, so you're learning to lose weight. You've got a bit of loose skin, but then you can be happy with that, sweetheart. You're doing a good job. That's what you have to learn to do. That's what you have to learn to do.
Right, you're right. I think it's coming to peace with that. Is that
exactly, sweetheart? And screw this fellow. I mean, how dare a person be so personal and be so rude about a person he calls his girlfriend? I'm glad you got rid of him. So, darling, this is the problem. People will say things. We have to really be brave. Like with Ace and his father, is what my father says about me true, or is it not true? So that's where we have to take responsibility. But our problem is we've got this big craving to be loved and appreciated by people, Artie. And if people say we're lovely, well, oh, that's good, I'm lovely. And if they say we're not, we'll think I'm not lovely. We've got to decide ourselves what we are. Are you hearing my point, Artie? This is so important. And you've done a good job in doing what you're doing. You're trying to get healthy. You're trying to lose weight. Fantastic, girl. So screw him is what my response is. And try and be brave yourself and develop your own self-respect and admire yourself for your effort and come to peace with it. And just, I mean, the point is, this is what's so interesting. Anybody can have an opinion about us. We don't care if they're intelligent or not, but we believe it. This is the tragedy, Artie. This is the tragedy. We believe any peanut. And that's what we have to learn to stop doing.
True.
And start to believe your own views, sweetheart.
I guess my question to that then is like, what if the opinion is true, but you can't do anything about it, or it will
Then
make...
That's the point. Then if you can't, it's like being in prison. If you can't do anything about it, then you learn to live with who you are and see it as good. You come to peace with who you are. You enjoy, and this is, sweetheart, Everybody on the planet is not happy with their body. Everybody in this room will tell you. I mean, everybody, this is just the nature, the irony of dissatisfaction. No matter what we are, no matter how good our body is, no matter how much we get, we're never satisfied. This is our painful suffering, sweetheart. So we have to learn to be satisfied. Learn to be content. You have to learn to see the good side of yourself. Because if a person meets you and loves you for who you are, you'll feel so much better because they love you for who you are. We have to first love ourselves for who we are, Artie. This is so important, sweetheart.
Very true. Thank you.
It's not easy. It's not easy, darling, but this is the job. But our trouble is, like I said to Ace, is that we have this deepest craving. It's the craving, the attachment is more than for sex, drugs, or rock and roll, I tell you. It's the craving to be approved of. And so you think about it, why should I want someone else's approval? It's because I can't give it to myself. I can't be content with who I am. And that's our tragedy, sweetheart. And that's what you have to learn to do. That's the learning. That's the learning, darling.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
One step at a time, Artie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking about it, sweetheart. What else, people? All these things, we all understand. We're all the same, you know. What else?
Anthony, did you have a question? No? Okay.
No one else? Questions, anybody? No? Patrick has a question. Good, Patrick.
Again, along the same lines as before, it just occurred to me in the Buddhist view of things, what is the difference, or how, like you've just been talking about to several people along the lines of depression versus anger, in terms of
Okay,
like
good
one
point.
time, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go. One time what?
Oh, just to remember one time, like Maddie, I suffered from depression, still battle it, but I remember someone very, very pithily once said to me, "Oh, that's just anger turned inwards."
Yeah, that's
And I
right.
thought, well, it's not quite that simple, though, is it?
No, I'll tell you. I'll explain. The Buddhist analysis of the mind, on the face of it, it sounds very simplistic, but we've got to start somewhere. But he talks about these unhappy states of mind, and the two main ones in day-to-day life I've been discussing. One is called attachment, and it is multifaceted, Patrick. In order to understand depression or anger, we have to understand attachment first, because anger is the response, or anger, but I'll explain. So attachment is multifaceted. First of all, like I've been saying to Artie, the deepest level of it, the most energetic level, is this dissatisfaction with what I am and what I have. And if we've got that, I mean, we can see some people are so severely got that, no matter what we get, never enough. How much we change our body, it's never right. How much money we have, never enough. How much food we get, never enough. Depends on what you're attached to, you know. We're always dissatisfied. So we're always hungry for something different and more. This is our main pain. So then that's the most fundamental level of attachment. Then you've got the next level of attachment, the next sort of part of it is this, because you're never satisfied with what you've got or who you are, we're looking outside for something to fill up the gaping hole. So it depends on your personality. For some people it's food, some people it's alcohol, some people it's sex, some people it's the different sensory experiences. For some people it's more heavy, it's like harming people and killing or stealing or whatever, you know. So that's how attachment functions. And then if it's, let's say, attachment to, and the commonest one, of course, is attachment to get a relationship, attachment for a person. And then that attachment is this deepest one of then wanting approval, wanting to be liked, wanting to be seen as a good boy or a good girl. And we're hungry for that. We're hungry for that. So the point is, but the bottom line about attachment, the essence of it, is this constant, like I said before to you, this constant assumption every second that I must get only the nice things, because that's what seems to bring happiness. So now this is the point now. So the second attachment doesn't get what it wants. And that's what I mentioned before, the wrong coffee in the fridge. You drop a cup while you're washing the dishes. The tiniest events. Everybody who ever has that, you've got the expectation, you're doing the dishes, your expectation is you don't break a cup. The expectation is the coffee's in the fridge. These are tiny examples. And then the second you meet the wrong coffee, sort of the attachment doesn't get what it wants. So aversion arises. Now, mild levels of aversion are annoyance, irritation, frustration. upset. We say these words all the time, but we don't pay attention. Now, if it's really strong aversion, if you've got a volatile personality, you'll get angry, you'll scream, who took the coffee? Where's and you'll slam the fridge. They're all variations of the fundamental state of mind called aversion, which is the response when attachment is thwarted. Now, when that builds up, Patrick, in people who don't have an angry personality, but have a more quiet personality, eventually, because nothing disappears, it builds up every day, it builds up. Eventually, aversion in some people turns into despair and depression. And you can't get out of bed one morning. So it's a subtler, internalized build-up of thwarted getting what you want. If you see, it's quite sort of moment by moment. It's quite subtle. Are you with me? Do you understand?
Yes, absolutely. Yes, definitely.
That's why we've got to catch it before it builds up.
Grab it. Yeah.
We don't grab it. It goes in. You get annoyed this time, and another thing annoys you, and another thing annoys you, and another thing annoys you. And if you're an internal kind of person, you just become hopeless and you just want to stay in bed. That's depression.
Yeah.
Another person will get angry and want to kill somebody. So they're on the opposite end of the spectrum. They're all the response to thwarted attachment. And when life is really difficult, then that's what happens. We can't cope. Do you understand?
Right. Yes.
Good.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Good.
Yes.
Good. What else, people? Ace, something else again. Ace, talk to me.
Yeah, so I'm a high sensitive person.
A highly sensitive person.
Yeah, so I can cry easily.
Okay.
That's mean I can take things personally.
Yes.
So how can I deal with that?
It's the same as I said before, Ace. That really, being sensitive is good. That means we've got the unhappy qualities and we've got the good qualities. So that would mean you have compassion and you have empathy with people. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's a good quality. Never lose that, Ace. But when it's mixed with this hunger to be seen as a good boy, that can pollute your compassion. That's the part that's painful. So you've got to learn to distinguish between the compassion and empathy. That's a good quality, but you've got to distinguish between that and this emotional hunger and nervousness around other people to do things that might upset them. That's your attachment. So don't chuck out the compassion and the empathy. That's wonderful. But it's when it gets mixed with attachment, that's when you become very fragile and unable to function properly. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, thank you very much.
Job of seeing the mind and distinguishing between the unhappy parts and the good parts. That's the part we have to learn to do. That's the job we have to learn to do, Ace.
Thank you very much. Can I ask you something else?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I'm a reserved person, so it's hard for me to open to other people.
Yes.
But when I'm alone, it gets me to depression. Really high depression. So I don't know how to squeeze.
All the things you're saying, Ace, is so interesting. If you have the Buddhist analysis, and that's up to you if you want to think about it and read the books about it, because it's a very specific analysis. All the things you're saying are variations of the same problem. You've got these positive qualities. You're a kind person. You're probably very ethical. You don't lie. You don't steal. You don't kill, right? You like that. You've got good ethics, right? You're compassionate, you're empathetic. That part of you is fantastic, Ace. That's the part of you have to grow. But the unhappy part is this hunger, this emotional, this attachment to be seen as a good person. So that's the part that's destroying you, because then people have abused you. Your father criticizes you. You get beaten up. So this is sort of dragging you down and making you sort of believe what they say is true. So you have this very kind of unhappy. So then also because you're not outgoing, is because you're a kind, gentle person, then it turns into you feel, because there's no one out there loving you and being your friend, you feel like you're worth nothing. This is how we all are, and variations of it, Ace. You just have to keep moving, because they're all symptoms of the same problem. You just got to keep moving, Ace. Know who you are, develop your good qualities, have confidence in them. This is what we have to do, and learn to look at these other sort of parts of you. It's a slow job, Ace. They're all symptoms of the same problem, sweetheart.
It looks like I want to stay in a comfort zone because of fear, or I don't trust people.
Only if it's true, and it's because you don't want to upset people. You don't want to have people dislike you. You're very, very sensitive. You're terrified of upsetting people, Ace, because you've seen your experience in the past, so you've learned this habit.
Yeah.
You've got to learn to have the courage to be who you are. And when you know yourself, you admire people who are very confident, who are very, not I mean arrogant, but who do what they have to do and who follow their own hearts. We admire people like that because they've got the courage to be their own person. This is what you are learning to do. Slowly, slowly, Ace, you'll be successful. It's okay.
Thank you very
That's what
much.
it's done.
Thank you very much.
Good. So why don't we just do a 3-minute, 5-minute meditation, okay? I have to fix my light. I've got this little kind of television setup here. I've got a light shining on me. I've got another light shining on the Buddha. It's very funny. Okay, let's do a little meditation. A very short one, very few minutes. And as a simple one, seems almost too simple. It's instead of it's like a concentration technique, but instead of concentrating on the breath, we're going to concentrate on whatever pops up in our mind. It's the first part of Mahamudra meditation. And it goes further than this. It's more deep, but we'll start with that. So get your body comfortable, be very natural, get your body comfortable. Have your back upright. If you're sitting in a chair, don't slump in the back of the chair. Just sit upright nicely. Hold your body up. Have your feet firmly planted on the ground. Have your head slightly tilted forward, a little bit tilted forward, chin tucked in. And have your eyes beneath your eyelids, looking down as if you're looking along your nose, okay? So settle in a very unself-conscious way, settle into this position. So now all we're going to do for like 4 minutes, quality minutes, we're going to, when you do these kind of concentration techniques, you find the object first that you're going to focus on, and then you just simply pay attention to it. So the breath is something easy because you can notice it, but this is more subtle. But we'll do it. We're going to pay attention to whatever thoughts pop up in our mind. We're not going to have an opinion about them. We're not going to have a conversation with them. We're not going to worry about them. We're just going to watch the thoughts. It feels a bit peculiar sometimes, like you've got no thoughts, but don't worry about it. Just pay attention with determination not to be distracted. Just pay attention to your thoughts. That's it. Just watch. No opinions. Just keep your mind focused. Pay attention to whatever pops up in your mind. All right, that's it. About 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. It's good. It's better to have 4 minutes quality than 20 minutes spacing out, you know. Because this is not a relaxation technique. It's not to make. It's a training to focus the mind. A training to focus the mind. And as Lama Yeshe talks about in Mahamudra, there's a very particular quality of the mind that makes it very powerful to concentrate on the mind. It's part of the Mahamudra technique. So that's it, sweethearts. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Venerable Robina. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Robina. Thank you, everyone.
Even if there's 1% of what you heard that's useful, use it. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. Much love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Venerable.